What's up, everybody? JayC here, and welcome to another Tuesday live stream. We're going Tuesday this week because I am going to be going to see, going to be going. I'm going to go see the Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness on Thursday. So I will not be here to do a live stream on Thursday. But I thought we would do one today. We've been doing them on Tuesdays the last several weeks anyway. So I said, what the heck? And I've got a box from Big Bad Toy Store to open up here. Plus, I thought, we might talk some Super7 and ThunderCats. We got Chitara that looks like is going to be arriving soon, hopefully. Knock on wood. And, of course, Wave 2 has started to hit, and people have had some quality control issues with their figures. So I thought we would discuss that a little bit as well. I also want to talk about Marvel Legends and the next Hasbro Haslab, which Hasbro, the Marvel guys, did confirm was coming. So there is going to be a third one, likely sometime this year, though I won't say 100%, but indications would be sometime this year. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Tomorrow is May the 4th. The official Star Wars day, so Hasbro live stream tomorrow, so we can talk a little bit about that. If we've got any Star Wars fans in the house, maybe talk a little bit about what we might be seeing tomorrow. But first, let us see who is in the house tonight. So I know I saw Everett. Everett once again very chatty tonight, so welcome. And then Michael, I saw Michael. What's up? Blade Runner. I'm never shy, Blade Runner. Jerry. Yeah, a little impromptu. I mean, I did announce it earlier this afternoon, so it wasn't like super last minute. Toy Master, May the 4th be with you. A little bit early, but yes. Blade Runner says he hasn't watched any MCU since No Way Home. I mean, there hasn't been any movies, but, we've got the Moon Knight series, which this week, I believe, is the season finale or series finale. I don't know if there's going to be another season of Moon Knight, but season finale. So we've got that this week as well, besides Into the Spider-Verse, besides Multiverse of Madness. Toy Bandit, what's up? Ray. Jerry, if I didn't say it, what's up? How you doing? 3M. They released one of the figures in Wave 12 of the Lightning collection. Blade Runner says Homecoming. You haven't watched any MCU since Homecoming? You got a lot of catching up to do. All right, well, let's kick things off with a good old-fashioned unboxing. So I got this box from Big Bad Toy Store yesterday, and so I thought I would hold on to it, figuring I was probably going to be doing the live stream today. So I think, because I got a couple of things coming from Big Bad Toy Store, but I think the contents of this box will be relevant to today's topics at hand. So, get this bad boy open. Yes, so my Wave 2 ThunderCats have arrived, so we'll see if here live on TV, we'll see if my figures have any serious quality control issues like some people have been reporting. So Mumra, and a much bigger box than most of the figures come in. So that's definitely one here I'm looking forward to. Pumira, which I was a little on the fence. I had the Mattel one, but I figured hopefully the scale is fixed. Tigra, definitely probably the one I'm most have been anticipating for this weave. And then Groon, which not one I'm super excited for, but I figured what the hell. That's it. That's the only thing in this box with my ThunderCat Wave 2 figures. So let's go with the one I want to see the most. Hey Julio, what's up? Hey Neil. I mean, I've given you guys tons of spoilers, but we're so far ahead. I mean, I've told you far more of what's coming, you know, that Hasbro needs to catch up. So, I mean, I don't have, and we're talking about stuff not coming out, you know, stuff delayed till 2023. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? What's coming out in 2024? But we are going to talk about Haslab and Marvel Legends tonight. And, you know, I don't know if you guys caught the podcast done on Marvel.com where the Hasbro guys were on there and they were talking, you know, Marvel Legends and the 20th anniversary. So they dropped some hints in that. So we're going to talk about that. So the usual outer box like we see with all the ThunderCats. So yes, it looks like I have the same issue that many have been complaining about, where you can see here in his abs, and I'll get it out of the box here so you can get a better look, but I can definitely see some bleeding here. Looks like the orange is coming through the blue here on his ab, so I'm not sure if any figure was spared that. To be honest, I haven't heard anyone say that their figure did not have that problem. Now, I guess it should be noted that, you know, this wave came from the old factory that they used to use. I think it was the same factory that Mattel used, which I guess barely gave Super7 the time of day because they were so small, you know, their orders were so small and everything. That's why Super7 changed factories. So that, I guess, is the reason why this wave is having quality control issues. So I'm going to flip us over to the review studio here so you guys can get a better look. Let me move some stuff out of the way here. So yeah, so definitely you can see a lot of bleeding through there on the abs of the figure. And again, I think this is pretty much a common problem across the board. I doubt Super7 is going to be able to do anything about it. So yeah, it definitely stands out a bit. Otherwise, though, I mean, I got a little bit. Looks like you can see some orange over here on the hinge joint. And again, looks like down here, you got some bleeding through. It doesn't look as bad there. Almost just looks like he's got a little dirt on his socks or whatever you want to call those. But Yeah, definitely here it stands out pretty bad. Now the face sculpt looks pretty good. The head sculpt is nice. And I mean, other than the paint, you know, the figure itself looks pretty good. But definitely some serious bleeding issues on I just want to pull out his whip accessory. So like you get alternate heads, you get the whip that's closed, and then you get alternate hands and the whip that is extended. Actually, it looks like you get two versions of the extended whip. Kind of hard to get these whips out. I have to cut them out of the plastic. Um, ThunderCat. If you're talking about on my Tigra, no, the ThunderCat symbol looks pretty good, I think. I guess there are, yeah, maybe you can see a couple little dings there. Yeah. There he is with his whip. Give you a little turnaround action. Yeah, I feel like most of the, you know, QC issues here don't bother me that much, but that midsection with the abs definitely is sticking out at me. Yeah. And you can see on the back again. I mean, I don't, you know, unfortunately, like I said, I don't know what Super 7 can really do at this point. I mean, do I want to wait another 2 years for them to do another one? Not really, but definitely, you know, as long as we've been waiting for these figures and as expensive as they are, it definitely sucks that the figure has that many quality control issues. So, yeah, definitely. I'm gonna give Super 7 a C minus, and I feel like that's being a little generous, but C minus on this one because of the QC issues with the paint. So let us I'm not going to open all four, but let's open up Mumra the Ever Living and see how that one came out. While I'm opening it, I'll throw you back over so you guys can. I'm curious why, like, they held back Chitara because the factory had screwed her up. And, it makes me wonder why they didn't just hold back all these figures and switch up. I mean, I understand the delay, and people, are constantly always complaining about the delays. But I feel like I would have I'm sure it would have cost Super 7 a ton of money if they had had to scrap everything that factory had done for that wave and then gone to a new factory. So I'm sure that played a role. All right, so Mumra. I'm not seeing right off the bat here any issues with Mumra, so Mumra looks a lot more promising here. But let me get her open. Michael says Mark Hamill may have confirmed, and how so? Because he won't be available at Celebration. So, Mumra, he's got his soft goods cape and some other accessories in there. His mutt. Ancient spirits. I can't even memorize what he said. All right, so Mumra, I'm gonna throw him over here on the review station. So Mumra, it seems to be a lot better. I'm not noticing any major paint blemishes or bleeding on this one. So throw his mutt in there. Mutt. So this one I think is a lot better, thankfully. Maybe a little white scuffing here on his back thigh, but nothing too major there. Speed up the turn around a little bit. Zoom in for you guys and get a better look. Head sculpt looks pretty good. I like the got like teeth missing. So this one I'm a lot more happy with. He's got a good size to him. So that one is a lot better. All right, let me scroll up here, see if Bean says they didn't know Tiger was messed up that bad until they got the ship. I mean, I understand. I mean, the predicament that Super7's in. I mean, the fact that factory again, I think was the one that they went to originally with from Mattel, and of course, Mattel was a lot bigger customer, so they got better treatment than Super7 got. And of course, Super7, to their credit, did take action and move to a different factory eventually. But at the same time, we as the consumer are the ones that get kind of screwed because, we get this product that is basically kind of substandard. And, if it's a $20 figure, I tend to be a lot more forgiving, if it's, but when you're talking, is what, $55 for these things, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not really sure what there is to do. I mean, I'm certainly not going to return it because I want my Tigra figure, but yeah, that's definitely kind of disappointing there. I was trying to see, Michael dropped a little bit of news about Masterverse, but oh, okay, here we go. I follow him on Twitter. I missed that. I'll have to look that up. I know there were reports that Kevin Smith at the Puerto Rico Comic Con 2 weeks ago had said at his panel that things were looking pretty solid for another season, but I only have hearsay on that, so I don't know if he actually said that or not. And then, of course, I mean, everything that's going on with Netflix, who knows, even if it was looking positive, possibly things have changed, so I don't know. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not like, I'm not convinced 100% that we're going to get another season. But I am keeping my fingers crossed. Oz says you can spend your money on companies that don't make excuses. Well, I mean, to be fair, Oz, you'd have to show me a company that doesn't have screw ups from time to time and makes excuses, whether it's Hasbro, whether it's NECA, whether it's McFarlane Toys. I mean, I think the most painful thing about the Super 7 figure is that it's just like we've waited so long for these, and and to get the figure in hand and then have such glaring paint defects on the Tigra figure, which if it was like, if it was the Groon or the Pumara figure, I wouldn't really care that much. But of course it had to be Tigra that had the screw ups, right? Probably the one that everyone was most anticipating for the wave, and that's the one that has the most problems. So definitely that hurt. Now, of course, speaking of Jitara and ThunderCats, we've gotten our first look this week of the actual, updated version. This is the one that they held back from the studio because of supposed quality control issues that they weren't happy with. So they made the factory redo her again, which delayed her. We're getting an extra head of because of the delay, but yeah, I don't know. From this image, which obviously this is just factory sample. It's not the final thing per se. It doesn't look too bad, but whether the final version ends up looking like my main concern here is I'm just looking at her and I'm wondering how good of running poses are you going to really be able to get her into. Um, but other than that, I mean, I think it looks okay. That's true. I at least right now. Now, if we ever got a movie or something like that, that might change. But you're right. Right now, Super7's probably the only company willing to do ThunderCats like this. So, and I mean, this is assuming the Jatara figure arrives here fairly soon, as Super7 is saying. It's shipping from the factory now. You know, we will actually, for the first time, we've gone through multiple companies, Bandai America, Mattel, now Super7, and this is going to be the first time we've actually been able to complete the original ThunderCats team. Well, I should preference that if you got the Mattel versions of Wily Kit and Wily Cat. So I do have those, so I count myself lucky among those, that once I have Jatara, I will be able to complete the original team. Those who missed out on the Mattel ones, I guess you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. I'm sure Super7 will eventually release them, but for me, I'm like on the verge of actually being able to complete my ThunderCats team, which is something I've been trying to do since, back when Bandai America first got the license and they started doing like the 6-inch figures and stuff. So, Henry, with shipping costs, well, what's my opinion on bringing manufacturing back into the States? I mean, that's well out of my wheel of expertise. I don't know how costs would break down. I mean, I'm always for, manufacturing in the United States, that brings jobs and things like that. But as far as would that lower prices or would it raise prices, I don't know. So, um, isn't somebody like Factory Entertainment doing that? I want to say that Factory Entertainment is maybe doing a replica of the Thundercat sword. I don't think we'd see Super7 do something like that. They don't really do replicas, but I think Factory Entertainment, I know been doing He-Man stuff, but I want to say they did Thundercats as well. I won't swear to it, but you might check on that. Which elbow? Sorry, I'm missing some of the. I was missing some of the comments as I was looking at the figure. Whose elbow is screwed up? Tigra's? We need Masterverse counterparts of Thundercats. Well, I mean, if we ever get like a new Netflix series, or if we get a movie or something like that, then you'll probably see a company pick up a main line. Oh, a main line, do Thundercats main line. But until then, this is probably as good as it's going to get for Thundercats. You're right, Frank. I did forget about Snarf. And still no clue from Super7 on how they're going to actually release a Snarf, because I sure hope they don't make us buy another freaking Lion-O to get Snarf. Gotcha. And you're right. I probably would not have noticed that had you not said it. Unless I was going back and happened to be watching the Thundercats cartoon as I was holding the figure, but that's probably not something I would have noticed. Now, that's not to say that they shouldn't have gotten it. They should have, probably. But I'd rather have that than the, bleeding of the orange and the abs coming through, which is really glaring. I'd be more forgiving for missing a an elbow pad than the quality control with the paints on this one. See, I don't think that's fair because, especially like, I mean, the only Super 7 figures I really own are the ThunderCat figures. So I don't really collect any of Super 7's other Ultimates lines. So I don't have a ton of stuff to speak of personally, but like, I go back to the Slythe figure, and that figure to me is gorgeous. I mean, and other than this Tigra figure so far, I've not had any major issues with my Thundercat figures. So, they're slow, it's a pain how slow they are, and yes, they are on the expensive side, but this Tigra figure is really the first figure I've gotten from them that really has some serious issues as far as quality control. And, again, from the consumer standpoint, I feel like we have a reason to bitch about that one. But, looking at it from a business standpoint, stuff like that's going to occasionally slip into a line, and it's hard to fix it once it does, especially if you're a small company where you don't have a lot of sway with the factories. So I don't know, but saying like because of the Tigra figure, all Super 7 figures are crap, I would disagree with that, just because based on my experience with the other Super 7 figures I've gotten, I've not had a problem. Were the Bandai Thundercats better? I kind of like the Super 7 ones a little bit better. However, if you factor in that the Bandai figures were general retail, they were much cheaper. I would have been happy with the Bandai ones if Bandai had finished out the entire team, which of course they didn't. So, but if I was just doing a comparison, I would, and you get a lot more accessories with the Super 7 ones than you do with the Bandai ones. But overall figure, Super 7's better, but as far as how much better compared to the price difference you were paying, again, I would have been happy with the Bandai America ones had they finished out the line. Xander says they can release Snarf with Snarfer. I feel like they should have included him with the Thunder Tank. I mean, they could include him another way as well for those who didn't get the Thunder Tank, but I feel like that's something they should have thrown in with the Thunder Tank. No, we haven't really gotten to the Haslab part. We'll get to that in a minute. We've been talking mostly ThunderCats so far. Yeah, and I agree with that for the most part. The thing about the Super 7 is you've pre-ordered it, you get it. I mean, could I take this? Could I return this to Big Bad? I mean, I got mine from Big Bad Toy Store, and I don't know if Super 7 is accepting any returns on the Tigra. So I haven't seen what they've been saying about this. But I feel like under the circumstances, if I wanted to return this figure, if I bought it from Super 7, then I should be able to go to Super 7 and say, hey, this did not live up to the quality I was promised. I want a refund. I will send the figure back to you. And they should honor that. I'm personally not going to do that, because even with the QC issues, I want to have my Tigra figure. But I do feel like, under the circumstances, if somebody wanted to return their figure and get a refund, especially if they bought it directly from Super 7, then Super 7 should honor those requests. But and maybe they are, I don't know. I haven't followed, and I don't know if people are actually trying to return theirs. Now, again, keeping in mind that they probably don't, if all the figures came out with this poor quality, then it's not like you can return it and they can send you a new one that's fixed. I think they would have to go do a whole new production run of the figure, which is not likely. So I think the option would be you could return it, get your money back, and not have the figure, or you're just going to have to keep it. But But I do feel like in this case, as far as complaining goes, I think people perfectly have a right to say, I'm not happy with this figure. I'm not happy that, with the paint applications on this figure. Again, there's probably not a whole lot that Super 7 can do about it at this point, but I feel like in this case, and as a reviewer, if you're reviewing this, if I was like, I'm giving you guys a look at it, but if I was doing like an actual action figure review, if Super 7 had sent me this figure for free and I was reviewing this figure and I did not tear this figure apart in an actual review and point out all the issues and say how, this is bad, that would be a piss poor review. That's definitely, the quality control issues of this figure is definitely something that should be pointed out in a review. So, again, I'm not saying, you should go and like, demand Brian Flynn, give up a liver for the mistake. But at the same time, I feel like, definitely the glaring quality control issues of the figure should be pointed out, and that people have a right to not be happy with that. And then, like I said, if there's anything Super 7 can do about it, that is more questionable to me. Will they eventually do another Tigra figure down the road? Probably, but I doubt they're going to give people who bought the first one a free one, because I don't think they could probably afford to do that. Unless they can go to the factory and basically get the factory to refund their money that they paid the factory to have the figure made. And, who knows if that's even possible. John said, every company has forgotten the Burbles. That is true, but being, I want the main Thundercats, I want the main mutants before we get the Burbles. And frankly, most of these other characters, and I understand mixing them up in these waves, you don't want to give all your main characters out at the same time. So I understand that, but it's like, I don't really want to see any other Thundercat characters until I have the main team and I have the main mutants, which we are very close to. For the mutants, on the mutant side, we need Vulture Man. Jerry says the factory would just close down and open under a new name, possibly. I mean, Jerry is maybe exaggerating a little bit, especially if it's a bigger factory, but he's not joking. It is not fun to try and get action figures made from these factories. From everything I've heard from, small to big companies, dealing with these factories overseas is just not fun. And some of these factories have actually caused companies in the past to actually go out of business. So, I see some of these guys who want to try and make their own action figures and stuff, and I'm like, why on earth do you want to take on that kind of headache? Unless you're just, that's what you've done your whole life, make action figures. Some of these guys that I've been seeing trying to do their own action figures, I'm just like, yeah, I've been covering this stuff for 20 years, and not once have I ever had any real inclination to want to go out and make action figures. Cover them, cover the news about them, collect them, yes, but actually go out and make them myself and have to deal with the factories and all that. And COVID has only just brought on tons more problems, because it used to be, you could travel to the factory, or a larger company at least could send people to the factory to kind of like supervise and make sure the stuff gets made properly. But with all the COVID and everything and travel restrictions and stuff, that's become near impossible. So, being able to make sure your products, you get the products that you're supposed to from the factories has become a lot harder in the last several years. Yeah, the Nacelle company, they're doing those RoboForce figures and Secretus figures as well. So they're bringing that line back. So yeah, they're definitely trying to get into. Now they've got like David Vonner working for them, so he's at least an experienced, somebody who's got a fair amount of experience, in the industry making action figures. But yeah. And small companies, I tend to try and give benefit of the doubt. Again, the industry itself is not really set up to cater to small guys. It's set up to cater to the big guys. The factories give the big guys the discounts for the much larger bulk orders. The small guy has to pay a lot more at the factory. They are small, because they're not spending a lot of money at the factory, they don't get a lot of attention, things like that. So, I generally try and give a small company, the benefit of the doubt, including Super 7 with like, that's why when, everything is so slow, I'm like, it'll come when it comes. And again, I'm sure Super 7 is not happy that this figure came out the way it did. I'm sure they're probably as upset, if not more upset than we are. It's just that we're the ones that had to pay the $55 for the figure, and we're the ones that are kind of stuck with it. John says he'll make his own action figures with 3D printers, but just for him. There's been a lot of talk over the years about where the industry goes. And, I know there's actually, companies have actually looked at things like making, not selling the actual physical figure, but selling the, I don't know what you call it, but the basically the blueprints of the figure, so that you could, if you had like a digital printer, you could actually make your own action figure. I know there's actually in the years past, companies have actually looked at things like that, as digital printers have become more affordable and things like that. I don't know if we'll ever go down that path, but who knows. 3M, who I have no idea, man. I'm not a huge sports guy to begin with, and I never collected the originals. I don't even know, you know, what they're going to start off with. Baseball figures, hockey figures, football figures, NBA figure. I have no idea. So I really have no idea. Is it going to be, are they going to start off with football figures? Maybe. Probably football is, I would say either football or baseball is probably what they're going to start off with, but I don't really know. Tigra had bad paint applications, which seems to be a common problem with all the figures. A lot of bleeding on the back, the front here at the abs. So, yeah, and again, I think almost everybody has had that problem with the figure. All right, we've spent a lot of time on ThunderCats. Let's switch over to Marvel Legends here. So I want to talk about the Haslab project. So again, we posted about it on Marvelous News the other day. I think it went up this weekend. But Marvel, the folks at Marvel.com, they did a podcast, and they had on Dwight and Jesse Falcon from Toy Biz, who used to be with Toy Biz and now works, just under Marvel and Disney. I believe Ryan Ting was on the podcast as well, and they were talking about 20th anniversary Marvel Legends. Actually, kind of, if you're not super familiar with like the beginnings of Marvel Legends under Jesse Falcon and Toy Biz and stuff, there was actually some pretty interesting tidbits of info in that. So if you haven't checked that out, you might want to. But the main thing I wanted to focus on today was during that podcast, they confirmed that there is another Haslab coming, which I don't think is really surprising to anybody, but there is another one coming. Now they said most likely information will be coming later this year, and like Ryan used the word most likely, so I don't know if that means that maybe not everything is 100% yet set in stone, but I'm assuming that probably 99% likelihood that they will launch the next Haslab campaign for Marvel Legends this year. and probably would announce it around the July timeframe, San Diego Comic-Con. We don't even know what the plans are for this summer as far as, will Hasbro be attending San Diego Comic-Con this year, or are they going to take a pass this year and do another virtual PulseCon? We don't even know what's going on in regards to that type of thing. So, but I feel like probably that's when we would get the Haslab announcement. But definitely one is coming. Which being the first two Marvel Legend Haslabs, I want to say have been pretty much the most popular Haslabs that they've done. And it was unclear, like they were talking about the Haslab, and then Dwight Stahl said something about they've got a couple of his words were thick boys coming. Now, it wasn't entirely clear to me if that was something else Dwight was hinting to, or if that was in regards to the Haslab. It sounded like there was some editing that happened, and so it didn't sound like it was like a straight-on sentence. So I don't know. It was a little confusing to me. Possibly Dwight was hinting at some other figures coming, and it just they just put that in right after the Haslab talk. So, but thick boys, meaning more than one figure. And when I hear the word thick, I think of characters like maybe a new Blob figure, or I told you guys there should be a new Mojo figure coming this year, which is going to be one of those mega deluxe figures like the MODOK figure. So probably not, if that was a reference to say like Blob and Mojo, those are probably not going to be Haslabs. Those are probably going to be either Build-A-Figures, or again, Mojo should be a deluxe figure. But so I don't know. That was a little confusing to me, but to me, we've talked about this in the past, but if they do another Haslab, I don't really want it to be a vehicle. I know some people want vehicles, like, people often say the Fantastic Car or a Blackbird, but if they go the vehicle route, there's probably a good chance I will personally pass on it. Unless if they did a vehicle that was like under $200, then I might consider it, kind of like NECA with the Turtle Van. I only got that because it was under $200. And so I said, what the hell? But, I'm not going to spend $400 or $500 on a vehicle that I don't really have space for. And in my view, probably would not allow you to display a lot of figures on it. The only thing I would kind of be interested in, if they could pull it off that beyond like a large figure, is something like a Danger Room playset. But I'm kind of wondering how they could really do that well. If they could pull that off, then that would be, something where you could display a lot of X-Men figures and stuff. And so I feel like that would be kind of cool, but I don't know thinking about it in my head from a design standpoint, I'm not sure how you'd really end up doing that and it being really cool. I mean, you could do like a platform. I mean, we've seen like Diamond Select Toys do some diorama bases to mimic the Danger Room, but to me, it would have to be something a lot more elaborate than that, to warrant a Haslab treatment. We've already got Strong Guy, so. But Blob, yeah, when he said thick, but again, that's only if that comment was not for Haslab. I don't see them doing a Blob for Haslab, unless they're going to do a pair of figures, and it would end up being one of their cheaper Haslabs. I mean, there's nothing that says that a Haslab has to be like a $500 item. So, they could definitely do something cheaper. Oh, and then, yes, thanks for reminding me, Austin. So, also Dwight mentioned in that podcast that he would love to get another crack at doing a modern Fin Fang Foom. So, you may recall they've already done him. It was a 2-wave Build-A-Figure. So, again, that was totally separate from their talk about the Haslabs. But in that podcast, they were asking, like, what figures would they like, would the Hasbro guys like to see done? And Dwight mentioned would love to get another crack at doing an updated version of Fin Fang Foom. So I could see them doing, a Fin Fang Foom that's much more in scale, with 6-inch figures that they would do as a Haslab. So I could definitely see that. Jesse says a spider buggy. Could you imagine if they tried to roll something like that out as a Haslab? Hey guys, remember that comic, that one comic that where Spider-Man was driving around in a Doom buggy? Well, we're bringing it to Haslab as a new vehicle. As far as what large character they could do, I mean, there's obviously a bunch, including like they could do a Watcher figure. If they did they could do a pretty cool Watcher figure. But I would go for a Watcher, but I don't know if a lot of people would go for a Watcher, like a comic book Watcher. I don't know. Chuck wants to go subscription model. I don't know, man. I was never fond of the subscription model when like Mattel did it for Masters of the Universe. I don't mind a pre-order per se, but I don't like having to like I don't like having to subscribe to a whole thing of figures, especially when I haven't even seen them, and then hoping that they're figures that I want to get. I don't want to be locked into like 12 figures in order to get like 6 that only I want. So I've never been a fan of like something like subscription. Again, Mattel did it with Masters of the Universe. The GI Joe fan club did it with GI Joe figures, and I just never really was my thing. So it's certainly anything's possible, but I certainly would not encourage Hasbro to go that kind of route. Don't know, Michael, when the next live stream is. I'm thinking probably not until June, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if tomorrow's Star Wars live stream is the only Hasbro live stream we get this month, since they did so many last month. I won't say it's impossible, but like the Hasbro guys for Marvel definitely said this was going to be a lot lighter month for Marvel Legends than like last month was. So um, that I can't say for sure, but I have a feeling that it might not be until June. Right. I mean, that's exactly why I only have a few Marvel or Masters of the Universe classic figures, because I was not going to sign up for that Matty Collector subscription, sir. I hated that thing. If they were figures that they offered, where you could buy it separately, and it was a character I like, I picked them up, but I was not going to lock myself into a whole year of figures, um, without having seen them. I'm always amazed at how many people are willing to like pre-order something sight unseen. There's like a listing that pops up. It's using a code word and no image, and people will buy it, and it like sells out. I'm like, what are you people? Are you crazy? I at least want to see it. The final product doesn't always necessarily come out exactly like the images, but I at least want to see what I'm getting before I'm gonna like commit to it. John says the Baxter Building. Yeah, just like a big skyscraper. Hell, if they were gonna do something like that, I'd rather have like Avengers Tower than. But what other big character so a Celestial to me, I wouldn't have mind getting a Celestial, but I feel like if they were gonna do a Celestial, we probably would have gotten that last year with the Eternals movie. Though I guess we'll probably see Celestials again in the MCU, so who knows? Chucky says, "What is the best figure in the Thor wave?" Best looking figure, I think, actually ended up being that Reaver Thor. I I like the armored Thor just as far as the look, but as far as the detailing and everything, that Reaver Thor actually was pretty good. I have that. I got all the figures in that wave except for the Star Lord and the Groot. I didn't feel a need to buy those again, and I didn't care that much about the Build-A-Figure, so I didn't get those two. But as far as the best looking figure in the wave, I would say the Reaver Thor. What's on my Legends wish list? Well, so I'm eagerly awaiting the arrival of the new U.S. Agent figure. So that's a big one for me. But Wolfsbane in her X Factor outfit, so I can finish up my X Factor 90s X Factor team. Maybe a Doc Samson too. I wouldn't mind a good Doc Samson figure. Uh, Farrell for X Force, so I can round out my X Force team. Those are big high ups on my list of figures that I want. I'm trying to think what else. I wouldn't mind like a box figure for Alpha Flight. A cool box figure, that would be cool. A cool classic Crimson Dynamo. That's one I would definitely like to see. I wasn't really happy with the last Crimson Dynamo that Hasbro gave us. So I want like a classic one. And Diamond Select Toys could do one because I love their recent Silver Centurion Iron Man and the other God, Green Russian armor dude. I hate when names just fall out of my head. But that one that they did is also a really solid figure. There's supposed to be an Apocalypse figure. They showed concept art for, but I don't know when it's going to be solicited or when we're going to actually see the final figure. A Living Tribunal would be kind of cool, but I feel like that's too obscure that a lot of people wouldn't even know who they were. So that would be a cool one to see with the multiple floating head. I don't even know how you do that. I guess you do clear plastic or something. But that would be cool, and I would be interested in one like that. But again, Titanium Man, thank you. God, I don't know why that name slipped by. But the Diamond Select Toys Titanium Man is a really solid figure. If you haven't gotten that one, I recommend it. And it works nicely with the Marvel Legend figures. I have them with my Russia team, my Winter Guard team. So, but getting back to Living Tribunal, I definitely would be an interesting Haslab figure. But again, I just feel like that's obscure enough that people wouldn't know who it was, and therefore it wouldn't sell super well. You don't like the Diamond Select Silver Centurion Iron Man? That figure is gorgeous in my opinion. Blows the Marvel Legend one away. Devil Dinosaur. I could see them doing that as like a super deluxe or something like that, but not as a Haslab. Rotten, sorry man. I just got my Mumra yesterday, so hopefully you get yours soon. Ego. May I guess you could do something pretty cool. I mean, it'd just be a big giant ball, but like if you had a really detailed face and you maybe put some lights in it. Um, but again, I mean, obviously we did see Ego in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, so he had some mainstream media exposure, but I have to wonder how many people would really plop down, $400 for just a Ego ball. Oh, well, that's understandable if you don't like the armor. I like that armor. That was like the armor that he was wearing when I first started reading comics, and I like the color scheme, so that's actually one of my favorite armors. Well, I doubt they'd go to $35, being the going price is 25 now, but we might. I could maybe see $30. Puppyplex says ego doubles as a basketball. Well, if they made him out of rubber, but that hey, then they wouldn't be wasting plastic, right? The Hammond collect, yeah. I'm not a huge dinosaur guy, but yeah, I agree. That figure did look pretty good. What's up, GH from Colombia? Welcome. Yeah, you can make your custom ego. Draw some eyes on a basketball. I've actually seen some pretty cool custom ego customs out there. Jesse's thinking, I don't know. I feel like the Spider-Man figures are going to get released as a 3-pack. I mean, that's just a guess on my part, but we'll have to see. I mean, that's next year, so. Or sorry, did I say Reaver? Sorry, you're right, Ravenger. Like, I don't think they'll do all the villains, to be honest. I think our best chance is we'll get a Doc Ock figure at some point from No Way Home and maybe Electro. I kind of feel like we're not going to get another Sandman or a Lizard figure. I mean, again, that's just my speculation, but. And with like the Doc Ock, there seem to be safety issues with putting bendy wire in the tentacles for Doc. So, you know, if they did a Doc Ock without bendy wire tentacles, I think a lot of people would be unhappy. Thank you, Chuck. Always appreciate the super chat donations. Let's see. At what price are you out on collecting or not? That's a good question. I I don't think there's a set price. Like, I mean, I I, I spent $55 for ThunderCats, so but like I don't collect every single Super 7 figure that comes out in large part because of that $55 price tag. So is there a set price where I just totally walk away from collecting? I mean it would depend on my financial situation. If I'm in a situation where I'm either having to choose to spend money on an action figure or pay my bills, well, I'm going to pay my bills, and at that point I'm not going to be collecting action figures. But knock on wood, if as long as my financial situation stays stable and I can afford it, then I'm going to pick the ones that I like, and I probably am willing to pay more if it's something I really like. But the more expensive something gets, the more choosier I'm probably going to be. So, you know, that's really how I look at it. So the more prices go up, and because I collect a lot of different lines, I don't just collect Marvel Legends. I don't just collect one action figure line. Sorry, my dog's barking upstairs if that's coming through on the mic. But I don't collect, because I collect so many different lines, that makes me have to be even more choosy. So a lot of it just depends on where I am financially, and then, how much of the, I like. But I definitely, there's no line that I buy anymore where I'm like buying every single figure in the line, or very few. I guess G.I. Joe right now is pretty close, but that's just because the figures are coming out so few and far between. But if we were getting as many G.I. Joe classified figures as we get Marvel Legends, I probably wouldn't be buying every single figure that came out. So, and that's another component to it. You know, Marvel Legends, there are so many Marvel Legends. Like Super 7 figures, if that many Super 7 figures came out, you know, I wouldn't be able to keep up. And again, it's why probably the only Super 7 line that I collect is ThunderCats. For Turtles, I go with the NECA stuff and then, you know, I'm not into Power Rangers, and I'm not most of the other stuff that's other than G.I. Joe. I've got the first wave of Super 7 G.I. Joe figures on pre-order. I'm waiting to get those figures in hand, and then I'll decide if I'm going to get more. But so I do have some of the G.I. Joe stuff. Sorry, my text is really TRKOBY Trek OB. I should review the Mortal Kombat 11 con. He's beautiful. Which one? The McFarlane one? I've not gotten a lot of the Mortal Kombat figures. I don't know. I like it. I like them, but it's just a line I've not really. The Storm collectible figures like look really good to me. Every time I post about them on the sites, I'm always, man, those look really good. But again, high prices and just because lack of space for everything. You know, I wish I had room for everything, but you know, it does tend to make me a little more picky and choosy. The Mortal Kombat or the McFarlane one, it looked like a pretty good figure. I have not seen I've not seen many of the, like, I think maybe the only physical store around here that's carrying Mortal Kombat is maybe GameStop. But like I don't think I've seen too many of the Mortal Kombat figures at Walmart or Target. I'm supposed to be getting, should be arriving any day now, the McFarlane toy Spawn Overkill, or as I always call him, Overkill, and the deluxe Spawn with the throne. So I'm interested to see how those end up coming out. Ever says, what about a Giant Man Hank Pym? We've gotten Giant Man. Do I want like a Sentinel sized Giant Man? I probably personally don't. Cosmic Legions are gorgeous looking figures, but again, for me, price, lack of space, not much there. I mean, they're beautiful looking figures, but generally I stick to collecting things that kind of have a nostalgia factor for me. So did they? It couldn't have been too long because Toys R Us went out of business, pretty close to the time the Storm Collectibles started making figures. Was RoboCop in the Mortal Kombat game? I mean, McFarlane has done RoboCop before NECA started doing RoboCop. McFarlane did RoboCop, but so there is technically already a McFarlane RoboCop figure out there. Apocalypse with the four horsemen, the original four horsemen on their horses, those mechanical horse things that they rode in X Factor and stuff, that would be kind of cool. But again, I have a feeling that I don't know how many people would really want to plop down that much money for those. Oh, like how big should Shuma Gorath be? I mean, I know he's going to be in the upcoming Doctor Strange movie, but every time that character to me, I always think of him from the Capcom video games, which he's not that big in those games. Neil, the problem with that is you could ask 20 people what obscure, hotly desired figures that should be, and I almost guarantee you would get 20 different answers. So, John says, what character has not been in the Mortal Kombat game? Nightfall. We don't actually know what the Haslab project's going to be. We know there's one coming. Hasbro's confirmed that there is one coming. They possibly left a hint. I don't know if it was actually related to Haslab or something else, but in a podcast they did with Marvel.com, they said something about they've got some thick boys coming, a couple of thick boys coming, um, which leads me to think something like Blob or Mojo or something like that. But again, I don't know if that comment was specifically related to Haslab or different figures. They kind of merged those things when they were talking about those things together. So, but the question we've kind of been talking about tonight is whether people want to see another big figure or whether Hasbro should switch to like vehicles or something like that. And my feeling is I likely would not be that interested in vehicles. I'd rather see a larger figure, but see, I feel like Haslab, well, people are right. It does not have to be like a $400 item, but it's got to be something that Hasbro really has no chance of getting to mass retail. If Hasbro thinks they can get it to mass retail, I don't think you're going to see it released through Haslab because they can sell a lot more if it's something that's released at retail. So when you start getting at lower price points, it becomes something that Hasbro probably has a better chance at getting to retail. Now you could go with something more obscure, like a really obscure type character or something that they couldn't get to retail that might be cheaper. But the thing about Haslab is, to me, it's got to be something that they just could not have any chance at getting it at general retail or even like as a store exclusive or something like that. So, you know, and that usually, that's usually stuff that has a really giant price tag to it. I would, I mean, not as Haslab maybe, but I definitely wouldn't mind seeing, I feel like a Punisher van is something they could get out at retail. Now, after the Doctor Strange movie, Shumagorath might get a lot more popular. So who knows? Maybe that's something. Yeah, I could. That would be kind of a cool. If they did a large one with like tentacles with bendy wire and had like maybe an eye that actually was articulated or moved. You can move the pupil in it somehow, and maybe I don't know, something along those lines. I mean, that would be kind of cool. Make the tentacles articulated, that type of thing. If they put in a lot of like detail, sculpting detail and stuff like that, then it would be a pretty cool looking figure. Shield helicarrier would be interesting, but I don't know. I find it hard to believe they would go that route. If they did a vehicle, I think it would be something like a Blackbird or a Quinjet, something along those lines. Maybe a fantastic car, but for me personally, none of those are really things that I would be that interested in. At least at like a $400 price tag. Yeah, I mean Hasbro's done a pretty good Annihilus. That was one of, that was one of the figures they did early on, and that's actually a pretty solid figure. And actually, interestingly enough, going back to that podcast that they did this weekend on Marvel.com, I didn't realize that the Annihilus figure that Hasbro put out was actually originally sculpted by Toy Biz and was kind of handed over to Hasbro when Hasbro took over the license. So that's probably why that figure was pretty good, even, since most of Hasbro's early Marvel Legends were not that good. If they were gonna do an old Toy Biz headquarters, I'd rather they do like the training center one that they did back in the original Toy Biz Marvel line, the 5-inch line. It had like the wall that Hulk could punch and things like that. I still have that playset. Do I think Hasbro will Star Wars Attack of the Clones figures? Possibly. I mean, certainly they love to do clones, so for tomorrow's I don't know how many of you are that much into Star Wars these days, but for tomorrow's live stream, I believe there's going to be like 3 Black Series figures, at least non-store exclusives. There may be more with store exclusives, I'm not sure, but probably look for 3 non-store exclusive Black Series figures to be revealed. Um, and then I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6 vintage collection figures. And yeah, so I don't know exactly what figures they'll be, but that I think is kind of what I would expect to see tomorrow from the live stream. Um, of course, Obi-Wan premieres the Obi-Wan Kenobi series premieres on Friday. So with 2 episodes, we get 2 episodes to start things off. So I'm probably looking more forward to the Obi-Wan series than I am the season finale of Moon Knight. And I'm hoping the Moon Knight series like goes out with a bang, because I got to be honest, I've been kind of lukewarm on the Moon Knight series. I mean, it's had some cool parts, and I think Oscar Isaac has done a pretty good job playing like the multiple personality character, but I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like that show needs to go out with a big bang. If they did Annihilus, I tend to agree. I don't think Annihilus would be a Haslab thing. That would be more like a deluxe or build a figure. The Puppyplex says he wants a good version of Black Cranston. If they do a Black Cranston from like the Book of Boba Fett, and not like from the comics, then I think it'll be a lot better. I don't know if they're going to do one though. Since he's still, since he's like one of the become a character in the shows, I think it's probably a good bet. Those comic book figures are just like repaints for the most part. So, anything that ends up in that comic book line, mostly, don't expect a whole lot from. But again, if they end up doing like an actual Book of Boba Fett version of Black Cranston, that one should probably be a lot better. I agree. Well, I don't think it's been as terrible, quite as terrible as you're saying. But even if I don't end up liking the show that much, like if the last episode doesn't do a whole lot for me, I agree that the Moon Knight figure is looks really good. We just got an Onslaught not too long ago. I don't know if we need another one. My biggest problem with the MCU Disney Plus shows is I don't like they're written as like they're one big giant episode. Each episode is like just one little piece of a giant episode, which is kind of how streaming shows were supposed to be done. But at the same time, streaming shows were supposed to be released all at the same time, so you could kind of binge watch it. So I don't like that you know, they break them up once a week, but they write them in a way, I feel like they should start writing the episodes so they're a little more self-contained. Um, or they should just release all the episodes at the same time. That's probably my biggest complaint with the Disney Plus shows, the Marvel ones. And they're not the only series that I have that issue with. I'm the new Star Trek Strange New World series is going to be premiering this week as well on Paramount Plus. And I was glad to hear that those are actually being done as individual episodes, kind of like the original Star Trek series, as opposed to these kind of individual pieces of one large season long episode. So I'm kind of looking forward to that series, though I still a little I always get fearful with the Star Trek stuff when they go back in time. I'm always afraid they're going to screw up continuity, but so far everything I've seen for the Strange New World series looks pretty good. I would agree. I just, like I said, I don't like how, they're broken up and like, I feel like they should just be released all at once. The way they're written, that is. And the problem is, like, I would probably wait to watch, wait till all the episodes came out and watch them all together. Except that with like Marvel shows, if you wait, you can't go a couple of days without, the spoilers coming from every direction. So, there's no way you can stay spoiler free for an entire season of a Marvel show, unless you're just going to completely cut yourself off from the internet. So, hey Jeffrey, unfortunately, Hasbro really doesn't divulge information like that unless they've already announced it. So I've not heard anything indicating that diorama sets are something they're thinking about. But John, no, because I've stayed away from most of the leaks. Other than the official video clips that have come out. So, like I had been aware of like the rumors that Tom Cruise was going to be in the movie, which I'm not entirely, it looks like that perhaps that was bogus anyway. But I've managed to stay away from most of the Doctor Strange spoilers so far. So, but that's why I'm going to see it Thursday, because I know once the movie's out there, if I waited till a week to go see it or something, or if I waited it to come out on Disney Plus, again, the movie would be spoiled. So that is one of the reasons why I'm kind of going to see it as soon as it opens. Well, I mean, not Marvel related, but my favorite Disney Plus show so far has been The Mandalorian, and that show has been top notch. Favorite Marvel show, uh, so far at least. I'm gonna say Captain America, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, mainly just because it introduced us to John Walker and U.S. Agent, which is one of my favorite characters. So there were some things I didn't like about the show, and I definitely felt like there were parts that dragged out. But that's probably my favorite. But again, mainly just because it introduced, um, one of my favorite characters to the MCU. My least favorite show was definitely WandaVision. That show, I thought the first three episodes were annoying, and then, I didn't like how they treated Wanda, or what they did with Wanda, but then like tried to make it feel like we should have sympathy for what she did. Now, I'm curious to see how they take that and play it out in the Doctor Strange movie, but for just a series unto itself, that's been my least favorite one so far. Mandalorian though has been, I mean, and it is the only show where I can go back and rewatch it. I've rewatched both season 1 and season 2 of The Mandalorian multiple times. So it is, not only was it just a good overall enjoyable show, but it is one that, like a number of movies, I can go back and rewatch. Whereas most of the other stuff, I'm lucky if I can get through it the first time and have no interest in going back and rewatching it. So, and I'm hoping Obi-Wan ends up being pretty good. I mean, with Obi-Wan, it's kind of like we know how it's going to end, right? We know where things are going to go, but I am definitely kind of interesting to see what kind of middle pieces they fill in with this series. So, um, I'm actually having some high hopes for the Obi-Wan series. Jerry, yeah, we have, I think. And I mean, of course, part of it was that that is also the show that had the most rumors. Like everyone thought, Mephisto is going to show up, and the X-Men are going to show up and everything. So, I mean, that one, I think, definitely that show did a good job of like building up the hype. That probably was the most hyped Marvel show that's been on so far. However, the problem is the show itself did not really live up anywhere close to the hype that it had built up. I didn't hate the Book of Boba Fett. I thought it wasn't as good as I was hoping, but I felt like I went in with Book of Boba Fett knowing that one of the things that has made Boba Fett such a popular character over the years is just the mystery of him. And so when you start to peel away that mystery, I feel like that takes away from the character. I was very excited when they announced they were doing a Book of Boba Fett series, but at the same time, I'm not super surprised that, a lot of people didn't like it as much as they were thinking they were going to. Because again, like I said, if you really think about it, Boba Fett never did anything all that spectacular in the movies, but it was just the mystery of the character that really made him so appealing, and the fact that he just wore such a cool armor helped as well. But once you start pulling back those layers and you actually start to see the character and who he is and things like that, I feel like it's hard not to be disappointed. And I agree, but I have nothing. I have no problem with that. I like. I mean, all these shows are universe building. I mean, again, going back to Obi-Wan, we know what happens to Obi-Wan. We know that Obi-Wan ends, remains on Tatooine. We know he ends up going off with Luke and ends up getting killed by Darth Vader in the Death Star. Right? There's really no surprises as far as what's going to happen with Obi-Wan Kenobi as a character. We even know that, if you've watched the Rebels show, you know that he ends up confronting Darth Maul one last time, and ends up killing Darth Maul. So there's not a lot of surprise left in what's going to happen with the character. So to me, the appealing thing about Obi-Wan is just continuing to fill in pieces of the universe that, so that one day maybe we have a complete picture of everything that's happened. So, it is definitely universe building, and it doesn't bother me if like Boba Fett carries over into Mandalorian and vice versa. As long as it's good, I have no problem with that. And I know probably the thing that people are most excited about with the Obi-Wan is they want to see Darth Vader and Obi-Wan face off again with one another. And my guess is they probably will. But I'm not sure if it's going to be quite the spectacular that people are expecting. Um, maybe it will, I don't know, but I'm kind of keeping my expectate on the Darth Vader front of this show. I'm kind of trying to keep my expectations down because I'm not sure if he's going to play as big a role in the series as people I think are kind of setting themselves up to think he is. So I mean, we'll have to see, but if like he only shows up in one episode, that's kind of where I'm setting my expectation for Darth Vader. And if he ends up playing a larger role or we see him, more, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. I don't think the continuation of the 90s X-Men cartoon is related to MCU. I think it's totally separate. So it is a continuation of the 90s X-Men cartoon, but I don't think it's supposed to be part of the MCU. So it's its own little side universe. And technically the 90s Spider-Man series was kind of also loosely connected with the X-Men universe. As in, like, they had Spider-Man and the X-Men in joining episodes voiced by the same actors who were playing the characters in both shows. I agree. I agree. There are better stories in the comics. And I would even go as far as to say there are some good stories with Boba Fett, a young, Boba Fett still as a kid in the Clone Wars cartoon. So, but I still feel like as you start to peel away the layers, that when you take the mystery away, it kind of it makes the character not quite as cool. At least not as like essentially people have set these super high expectations for that character because essentially we've only had our own imaginations to go by for that character since he really never had that much screen time in the movies. I mean, let's be honest. As cool as Boba Fett is, this is the guy that essentially got killed because Han Solo turned and hit his jetpack and caused him to go flying off into the Sarlacc pit. I mean, that's how the man originally we all thought how he died. So I I don't think a frost giant would be a great Haslab, but that's just my personal thought. Han Solo's my favorite Star Wars character, but Boba Fett's definitely, always one that I've thought was really cool. And, I've always seen Boba Fett as like a major adversary to Han Solo. So the fact, like, to me that, like, the connection between Boba Fett and Han Solo is no longer there has always been kind of disappointing to me. You just learned that ET is a Jedi. I don't think that's canon. I think ET did a pop up in one of the movies, like episode 2 or something, but I don't know if he's technically considered a Jedi. But my advice is start with A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and then go from there. I the best. I mean, I just as far as Han Solo and the Force Awakens, I certainly didn't like seeing him get killed, but I thought that was probably the most powerful scene in that movie, um, and probably the thing I like best of, I mean, all of the Han Solo parts are the things I like the best about The Force Awakens. Um, and Harrison Ford, I mean, Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to be killed in Return of the Jedi. Um, he's been wanting Han Solo killed off for like decades, so this was like his chance. That's probably how they got him to come back and do Force Awakens, was they promised that they were going to let him have a death scene. I think so. I won't swear to Google it, but I want to say that he does pop up briefly in the background. It's like the Enterprise, like in one of the scenes in one of the prequels, you can see like the Enterprise. So I don't necessarily consider that means that Star Trek and Star Wars share the same universe, but you know they've thrown in little Easter eggs like that over the years. That would be, I mean, this Guardians of the Galaxy ship in Marvel Legends scale would be pretty expensive, but I can't say that I've been dying to have that ship in 6-inch scale. Oh, I agree. It was very disappointing that we never got to see Han, Luke, Leia, and Chewie all on the screen together. That's 100% one of my biggest disappointments about the sequels. Oh, there you go. John says E.T. appeared in the Senate scene in Phantom Menace. E.T., that is, not Han Solo. I wouldn't say 100% in scale, but it's like a 12-inch figure, Everett. So, I mean, you could certainly use it. I don't think there's ever been a Star Wars Star Trek crossover. There has been a Star Trek X-Men crossover, but I don't think there's ever been anything in actual canon or even non-canon, but done like as a book or comic or something that crosses Star Trek and Star Wars over. I like Phantom Menace. I love the music in the Phantom Menace, and it's got some great choreographed scenes with Darth Maul, the lightsaber scenes. Now, I always thought it sucked that Darth Maul basically hardly spoke at all in the movie, but definitely had a lot better choreographed lightsaber battles in the Phantom Menace than you had in like the original movies. Jeffrey, I think a Fing Fang Foom could probably sell. I wouldn't be 100% surprised if they ended up going that route for Haslab. I have no idea, but a good scaled Fing Fang Foom probably would be pretty popular. Yeah, but that ice giant, I mean, that would be a really small ice giant. But they did a Marvel Universe 12-inch ice giant like they did with Galactus and the Sentinel back in the day. So if you can get your hands on that one, that's probably your best bet for a good ice giant. What's up, X? It definitely helps kind of fill in the gaps between episode 2 and episode 3. Of course, they also did that in season 7 of the Clone Wars. So, but like you, if you watch that Clone Wars series, then you know why like General Grievous is like always coughing, because he had his throat, squeezed and stuff like that. So it gives you little Easter eggs like that. All right, well, it's going on almost 9 o'clock, so I think we are going to call it a wrap for tonight. Again, no live stream this coming Thursday because I'm going to be at the movie theater seeing the new Doctor Strange movie, but probably we'll go back to Thursdays next week. But as always, guys, thanks for joining in tonight. Always much appreciated. Always love hearing your guys' comments and feedback. As always, guys, stay safe out there, and until next time, always lose. Oh, here we go. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification to alert it every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News message boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.